Hello and welcome back to An Old Man Watches, where today I'm going to be talking about the 2009 stop-motion animation film Coraline, adapted from Neil Gaiman's novella of the same name. And that titular character is Coraline Jones, an unhappy young woman. Her family has recently moved, leaving her without any local friends, and her parents, Charlie and Mel, are wrapped up in their work and tend to ignore her. They're always busy, and her mom in particular interacts with her only to forbid Coraline from doing fun things or to tell her to stop bothering them. I mean, sure, sometimes adults are busy, but Coraline's mum isn't very nice about it. The closest thing our young heroine has to company are a black cat who crosses her path and a tentative acquaintance with the grandson of her landlady, who is a somewhat socially awkward young man named Wybie. Wybie gifts Coraline with a ragdoll lookalike of herself, which is when things start to get a bit weird. It is a Neil Gaiman story, after all. Possession of the doll leads Coraline to a small door that is a portal to the other world. That's other world with a capital O and a capital W. An alternative universe where button-eyed, doll-like versions of her parents lavish her with food and attention. There are a few slightly unsettling things about the other world. I mean, of course there are. We all know where this is going, right? But it is on the surface of things a much more welcoming and fun place to be. So even after several locals in the real world give her unsubtle warnings about it, Coraline begins spending more and more of her time there. She even dreams of staying forever, but when her doting other mother offers her the chance to do exactly that, the associated price is not one Coraline is willing to pay. She declines and tries to leave, but well, the other world isn't going to let her leave as easily as it let her in. Coraline was the first independent feature film production from Leica and established a trend for the animation studio. Their releases pretty consistently enjoy significant critical acclaim, but limited box office outcomes. In fact, with worldwide ticket sales of just over double its production budget, Coraline is almost certainly Leica's most commercially successful movie to date. None of the later movies have brought in as much, and all have stated budgets as large or larger. This pattern of critical success but commercial disappointment culminated with their 2019 release, The Missing Link, which won the Golden Globe for Best Animated Feature for the year, but staggered to a worldwide box office of barely 1/4 of its production cost. So in some respects, the question at hand today is, do I share the positivity of the critics or the apathy of the public in my opinion of this film? And the answer is that I side with the critics, mostly. Coraline attracted a lot of positive remarks for its atmospheric visuals and tone. The New York Times review, for instance, described it as creepy, wonderfully strange, and full of feeling. And I have to agree, the movie's visuals are expertly designed. Some of the basic techniques are simple enough in principle. For instance, the colour palette is more muted in the real world and more colourful in the other world. Sort of more subtle version of the black and white versus Technicolor technique used in The Wizard of Oz. But simple in principle is a very different thing to easy to do well. And there are certainly other aspects of the atmosphere that require more nuanced techniques. Take the other mother, for instance, who in the script must not only be able to fill the role of the warm and welcoming maternal figure that Coraline so desperately desires, but also the role of sinister figure against whom she must ultimately struggle. To keep the Wizard of Oz parallel going, she has to be both Glinda the Good Witch and the Wicked Witch of the West, and for us to see that she is both of them all at the same time. That's some impressive design work, and the film carries it off with aplomb. The voice acting is also excellent in this regard, I have to say. Special mention must go to Terry Hatcher, whose performance as both Coraline's real mother and other mother is top-notch. A big factor in building the atmosphere in the movie is the meticulous time, care and attention that was paid to the visuals. The filmmakers constructed 150 different physical sets, including a model of the entire city of Ashland, Oregon, right down to tiny miniature banners for the Shakespeare Festival, as well as nearly 30 different puppets just for Coraline herself. So many different head components were manufactured for her that the filmmakers calculated there are over 2,000 possible face combinations for the main character. This attention to detail extended to every element of the film. Every object depicted on screen was manufactured specifically for the film, including hundreds of flowers and all the costumes worn by the characters. One crew member was hired specifically to knit the miniature sweaters and other clothing for the puppets, sometimes using knitting needles as thin as human hair. A single garment could take multiple weeks or even months to complete. And the overall result is a genuine cinematic fairy tale, lush and intricate and a visual joy to experience. This is a great film just to watch and bring in, and it's got plenty of atmosphere and an enjoyable main character, and it's going really great, and you know there's a but coming, don't you? And there is one aspect of the film that I don't like, and that is the character of Wybie. The character is not in the original novella. According to the filmmakers, he was added to the movie to give Coraline someone to talk to. On the surface of it, this seems reasonable. A novel or a novella gives us access to a character's internal dialogue in a way that films do not. Unless they have clumsy expositionary voiceover, of course. So adding someone for Coraline to talk to is a way to let her express those thoughts to someone else. However, there are two problems with this explanation. The first is a simple one. The black cat is right there. Coraline can easily speak to it instead. People in the real world speak to their pets all the time, after all. The second issue is the bigger one. Having added Wybie, the filmmakers seem to have decided, well, he needs something to do. He can't just be a sounding board. So it is he who gives Coraline the doll that leads her to the other world. And he has the great aunt who previously went there and whose fate is bound up with Coraline's. And worst of all, he is the one who thwarts the villain's final gambit, saving Coraline and making her a damsel in distress in her own film. This is something I found very disappointing. They took a story about a young woman and then they added a wholly original male character and made him not only the catalyst of the story, but also the one who finally resolves it. Wybie aside, there is a lot to like about this movie. It's gorgeous and atmospheric and obviously made with real passion for the project. It's a shame that I can't quite give it an unequivocal recommendation. It does definitely make me want to read the book, though. Next time, the 1972 Spanish offering Fury of the Wolfman. You may be wondering why I didn't talk about this one a couple of weeks ago with the other werewolf movies. Simply put, there's a bit to talk about. But that's next time. Until then, thanks for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you've seen today's movie, let me know what you thought of it.